All right, welcome back. So we are in the final section for chapter 4. So this is the last bit of material that you need for from chapter 4, which will be your chapter 4 test. And the good news is 4.8 is on applications dealing with triangles. And if you recall, we've already dealt with a lot of applications back in 4.3. So I really only have one problem to go over with you, and that's dealing with bearings. And this is the one problem that we did not cover in 4.3. But let me go ahead and get started. So before I can do a problem dealing with bearings, I need to make sure you understand what we're talking about when we say bearing, right? So what I'm going to do is, let's assume, let's start with, actually, I'll tell you what, let's get rid of this. Let's do it this way. So let's start with, if somebody said north 40 degrees east, right? So if you're in a boat, you're in a airplane, and somebody's talking about your current trajectory north 40 degrees east, do you understand what they mean by that? Do you understand what they mean by bearings? Well, if not, give me just a second to unpack it, and you will. Okay, so let's start with, how do we understand north 40 degrees east? So here's the easiest way I think to explain. So first off, let's just label our cardinal directions here, right? So north, south, east, west. All right. So from the origin. So if you're on a bearing north 40 degrees east, here's the easiest way that I think I can express what they mean by that. So let's start with, if you're on a bearing north, then you're heading north like this, right? Now you're going to rotate 40 degrees. Now you can either rotate east or west. So since it's 40 degrees east, what we want to do is we want to rotate 40 degrees. And now this is your bearing north 40 degrees east. I'll do one more just to kind of make sure you understand that. So let's look at south 70 degrees east. All right. So let's start. So the way we always want to start, we're always starting north or south. So if you're just headed due south, then this is your trajectory, right? That's you going south. But you're not just going south, right? You're going south, and then you're rotating in the direction of the east. You're rotating 70 degrees. So if we rotate 70 degrees, then this is your trajectory. And this would be south 70 degrees east. I hope that makes sense. So you're just start from north or start from south, and either rotate east or rotate west. And that's how you would think about bearings. And now let's actually do a problem. The last problem. So if I could just have whatever attention you have today, let's do this one problem, and we'll be good. And I tell you what, this problem deals with bearings of a boat, and we're gonna add some context here. So let's assume that you and your friends, let's do it this way, right? So you and your friends, maybe your spring break, right? Miami, wherever. And you decide to, since spring break, decide to, your friend has access to a boat, and you guys, you know, you guys cluster together, grab a whole bunch of beer, cigarettes, whatever other things you partake in, and then journey out in the boat. Ready? So it says so we're going to assume that the origin is the harbor. All right, that's where the boat is harbored at. All right, and now, so the boat is going to leave and travel. So now, notice here, it's going to travel 25 miles on a bearing north 42 degrees east. Ready? Let's draw that. Because I'm telling you right now, everyone on this boat is about to be extremely grateful that you learned your trigonometry, because you're going to save everyone's life. Are you ready? So let's start. North 42 degrees east. So let's rotate 40. So I'll go ahead and label north, south, east, west. Let's go ahead and rotate 42 degrees. And let's go ahead and draw our bearing. All right. So that takes us all the way to here. Now this might get a little bit crowded, but will you agree with me that you were on that bearing for 25 miles? All right, well then what happened? Well, I don't know what happened, but somehow you decided, maybe you're doing some island hopping, but somehow the captain says, let's turn around. Let's actually not turn around. Let's actually turn 90 degrees clockwise and then travel 18 miles on a bearing south 48 degrees east. So does that make sense? So you're right here. You traveled 25 miles on north 42 degrees east, and all of a sudden you guys decide, all right, let's go on a new bearing. So let me go ahead and draw this out for you, and I'm going to kind of show you a trick. So most students are pretty good with that first bearing, right? They're pretty good on how to get to here, but then when they're here and they're trying to go south 48 degrees east, a lot of times students kind of have trouble knowing how to do that. So let me show you a quick trick. You can, say with a pencil, you can draw just a coordinate, just a second coordinate system right here. And you can erase it when you're done, because the only purpose is for you to know that how to draw your bearing. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to you? I'm trying my hardest to not lift my stylus. So from here, because you're trying to figure out how do I go south 48 degrees east from this point. And my suggestion again was just pretend like you have a coordinate system here. All right, and now let's go ahead and do it. So from south, we want to rotate 48 degrees in the east direction. All right, so that's how I'm coming up with this right here. And I'm going to go ahead and label this. So let me label this guy right here. So remember, you rotated 48 degrees. All right. Now, how long were you on this new bearing? Well, it says 18 miles, right? 18 miles. So there it is. So I know that looks cluttered. Just remember, you went 25 miles this direction, then you turned and went 18 miles in this direction, right? So this is what your boat experience has been like. Now, the key word here is 90 degrees clockwise. So that tells us for sure that there's got to be a right angle here. Are you ready? Now, as I just mentioned a second ago, everyone is about to be really happy you took this class, because guess what? You guys run out of gas right here. Okay, so there you are. You're stranded out in the ocean. No worries. Your friend's boat has, some type of, I don't know how you have cell phone service, but somehow you can get, you have, so you either have cell phone service or you have some type of way of communicating and calling back to the harbor, right? And so that's what you do. So you get on, CB radio or cell phone. You call back to the harbor, right? And you call the Coast Guard and say, "Hey, look, my friends and me, our boat has ran out of gas. We are stuck. We're stranded. Can you come get us?" Now, so think about the two pieces of information the Coast Guard needs from you, right? Because they're here, they're at the harbor. They need to know first how far you are from them, right? Now that's actually the easy of the two questions. So let's actually start there. So we'll make this yellow. Actually, we'll make it this lime green. So this is going to be the Coast Guard coming to rescue you, right? Now, so the first question the Coast Guard is going to have is how far, right? How far are you from the harbor? Now, the good news is this, don't you agree with me that this is a right triangle? Right? See that you see your right angle here? And don't you agree with me? You know two sides. You know this side is 18. You know this side is 25. So, no problem. So you can just use Pythagorean theorem and you'll be able to figure out how far you are from the harbor. Ready? So let's go ahead and plug everything in. So c squared is, we know it's 25 squared plus 18 squared. So that means c is going to be equal to the square root of 949, which is roughly 30.8 miles. So beautiful. So now you're on the phone, you tell them we're about 30.8 miles from you. So that's perfect. The next question the Coast Guard's going to have is, okay, what direction should I head? What bearing should I be on in order to reach you? Now this is right. This is not. We shouldn't make light of this question because you got to think about it. I mean, we got a large ocean here, right? This is a large radius of search. So we want to make sure, in order for them to find your little boat out in the ocean, we really need to be able to tell them which bearing to head on in order to reach you. And now comes the hard part. So what is the bearing to reach you? All right. So intuition can go far, right? Intuition, can you at least does it make sense that that the Coast Guard should be going northeast? Right? That part should make sense. North some degree east. Right? Like you don't want to tell them you're south something degrees west, right? They're never going to find you. So that alone limits the search radius. So we know the bearing is definitely going to be north something east. Let's see if we can do better than that. All right. So let me see if you can follow me here. So this is what we're looking for. See how that goes all the way to the green line? That angle, how do we find that angle? Well, can you at least agree with me that it's bigger than that? This angle is bigger than 42 degrees? Does that make sense? So we know, now we're getting somewhere. So we know it's going to be 42 degrees plus something, right? So that's definitely more, because 42 degrees stops here. So they don't want to go north 42 degrees east. They definitely want to go beyond 42 degrees. All right, so the game that we're going to play is, can we figure out this angle right here? Can we figure out this angle? Okay, how do we do that? Well, let me see if I can, I don't know how this will come out. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit. I hope that is okay on your view, on your screen. So this is the angle that we're trying to get. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's think about what we have. All right? Remember back to what do we have, what do we need? So from this angle here, do you know the opposite side of this angle? Well, yeah, we know that, right? That's 18 miles. We know the opposite. Okay, so do we know the hypotenuse? Well, we do, technically, because you just figured it out. Remember, it was the square root of 949. But we also know the adjacent side, right? So we know that this side here is 25. So let me see if I can get back to where I was. So what do we have? Well, we have opposite is 18 miles. We know that adjacent is 25 miles. What do we need? Well, we need the angle, right? We need theta. Well, hopefully it makes sense that we're going to use tangent. So tan of theta is equal to that opposite over the adjacent. Ready? So let's fill in the information that we know. So let's put 25 for adjacent. Let's put 18 for opposite. Don't check out on me. You got a whole boat full of people just praying, wishing that hoping that you know what you're doing right now. Okay, they're hoping you're going to save them. So we got opposite is 18 and adjacent is 25. Here we go. Now we want what? We want the angle. So what are we going to use? Yeah, we're going to use the inverse, tan inverse of 18 over 25. And that's going to give us the angle we need. Now, you can go ahead if you happen to have your, I'm going to use degrees, but I'm getting roughly 35.8 degrees. I wish I had you guys to double check my math really quickly. So, all right. So we now know what to add to 42 degrees, right? Because this was 42 degrees plus theta. We just didn't know. The only thing we didn't know was this little angle here. Now we know it. Let's plug that in and let's give them the trajectory. So we want the Coast Guard, they need to be on a bearing north 42 degrees plus 35.8 degrees east. In other words, north 77.8 degrees east. And they need to be on that. They need to be on this bearing for 30.8 miles, and they will find you. Beautiful. Everyone's happy. All right. I hope that made sense, and that will conclude chapter 4.